And I am live. That is cool at a stable FPS, which is just 30 and kbps, kilobytes per second. YouTube says excellent connection, and yep, here we go. And I can just start. First, let me exit this, right? This and PMX LS. This might be too small. PMX LS. Yep. Tmux, attach, target, react, and I am in my React environment. And here for today we are going to make tic-tac-toe game in React. And let me even change this. That is not the format, right? To make projects, learning React. Tick, shit, water, tac, toe. Shit, you are already here. That is cool. I guess I can stop this stream from running here. And system settings, no. And yep, let's go. So this is too big. Now, quick start. Now, we are on Tic-Tac-Toe and we have the source code, and after that we have to go into we have the setup and overview. We can skip that because we are not using code sandbox. We are doing it natively. And yes, I read these things yesterday. Now, building the board, right? Tic-tac-toe on top, baby. Yep, I have fucking great timing. Yep, you do have fucking great timing. Yep. Building the game. Let's get back to app.jsx. JS. This is where you will spend the rest of the tutorial. Okay, currently the board is only a single square, but you need 9. If you just try and copy paste your square to make to like this button X and then button, I will get an error because I am returning two elements here. One button this and the other is this button, and I cannot return two elements. I have to is put them in external element like this, a singular element like this. React components need to return a single JSX element and not multiple adjacent JSX elements like two buttons. To fix this, you can use fragments. Okay, these empty angle brackets are called fragments to wrap multiple adjacent JSX elements like this. Now you should see this, and right now just copy paste them quite a few times. Okay, app.jsx, I have this. What I have to do is write this and paste this here, copy, paste, and this itself I think has to come inside another div. Yep. And wait, let me first read and then I will do it on my own. Oh no, the squares are all in the same line, not a grid like you needed for our board. To fix this, you will need to group your squares into rows with divs and add some CSS classes. While you are at it, you will give each square a number to make sure you know where each square is displayed. Yep, that makes sense. In am.jsx file, update the square components to look like this. Okay, and one more thing. I want to run this. It is already running on localhost 3000, which is crazy. Okay, localhost 3000. Right, that is horrible. Instead of hello world, I need number, let's say this, save, and yep, I see 3x and these semicolons also. All right, that is cool. And wait, yep, this is normal size. And I need to put these into a div like this, right? And I need quite a few. Yep, this many divs. Right, right. Uh, yep, that is not cool. It is not on the okay because yeah, CSS. Um, if I do not have the CSS in my harpoon, let me get that. Yep, I have a heading, heading 2, heading 3, all of those things, and body square row. I completely forgot all the CSS shit that I once knew. Right. Status body row. Let me give it. I don't know. We use a dot for a class, I think, if I remember correctly. A dot for a class, and this will be called. I can call it board row, and I think it is not defined above. Board, yeah, it is not defined above. We only have its after part. That is what will happen when it is when something. Oh no, afterward that is we have a small element that is after every row, box row. Now for the box itself, what do I want? I don't know. Board row, and they are on different lines. Yep, board row is the name of the class that I have to provide. Class name equals board row. Yep, B small board row, and paste it here, paste it here, and that is working a bit. What browser are you using? I am using Brave. Uh, yeah, this is small, pretty small. But how did this happen when I gave it board row name, but I do not have anything in board row? I can remove index.js. Yep. I don't have anything in board row. How did the CSS work? Um, yep, I have questions. Right. My question would be, mm, when giving normal divs in React, I am getting them side by side. But when I wait, if I change this class name to something else, to a class that does not exist, let's say this, right? So what will happen now? They do go back to their ordinary ways, but clear both content, nothing, and let's say this is nothing. Relapin. Okay, so this thing is making them come on new lines. But when I give them this CSS, they come on separate lines. So tell me first of all, why do they in the start come on the same line, since diffs used to take up the whole line that they are on? And second of all, how does this CSS work? See, Orochimaru, अभी तो DSC कर रहा था ये. Yes, and now I'm doing development. That is cool. Excellent, you are cutting straight to the heart of layout behavior. Let's tackle this step by step. Part 1, why are the devs side by side initially in React? Yes, that is my question. By default, div is a block level element. That makes sense. It occupies the full width available. Any element after it should appear on the next line, not next to it. Yes, that makes sense. So if you just write this, they will be on separate lines. That is the natural behavior. However, if you are seeing this side by side, something must be overriding the default behavior, block behavior. You applied a CSS class like this or display or to a child of divs. No, you are using a CSS framework like Tailwind, Bootstrap, etc. that does this under the hood. There is a global CSS file affecting them, or you have React components like this. Div style float left. Div style float left. I have to watch a few CSS videos, but I cannot watch them on stream. Shit. But I can tell you about the CSS channels that I watch. And right now there is a quite a few bit of news about some plane being crashed and home. Uh, yeah, I think the channel was called Slay the Dragon. Slay the Dragon CSS. Yeah, Slaying the Dragon. This is a very good channel for CSS. I can put it in the chat. Slay the Dragon, and there was another channel. CSS channels is not a very good thing to look up. Yeah. Um. Uh, Channel. CSS. There was a channel which. Okay. What is flex box in CSS? I think that video will come up. Not Fireship. Coding. Coding to. This is another channel about CSS, which is pretty good. Yep, and I will watch them. I will look at their videos because this is after a very long time that I am restarting web development and I need to get back on track. And I cannot watch these videos on stream because that would be copyrighted or something like that. So yeah, you applied a CSS rule like this or that, or does this CSS do? We have board row, and after is this. This is a clear fix hack used to fix layout issues when you have floating elements inside a container. When I have floating elements inside a container, here is the breakdown. Float creates layout problems. When you float elements, float left or float right, they are taken out of the normal document flow. That means the parent container might collapse, have zero width, or might wrap around its child property. Okay, these things are not making sense to me because I do not understand what the problem is that CSS is apparently solving here. Let's see, this is what I have, and okay, this is my line, right? I have a bunch of buttons inside div, and these divs should appear on different lines. Right, like this. If this is what I have, then they should appear on different lines, but they are not appearing on different lines. They are on the same line. So something about this class, this thing is making them appear on different lines. But before that, I want to know why in the first place are they appearing on the same line. Okay. Uh, first, let's first I want to get clear why these divs are appearing on the same line to begin with, and I am using React, and this is my component. This is my component, and this is something in the app.jsx file. Now, in index.jsx, nothing. I have styles.css, which is just this. Maybe something box size, border size is a box sizing that means that when I'm providing height and width of a box, then its the height and width would be equal to would also include padding and border size. Yes, that is what it means. Shit, is there something that is doing that thing? Code font size, this top margin square. Game flex. Game is a class. Nope. No class is going to be these things. Package.json, index.json. It doesn't have anything, and there is no CSS here. So this is all that I have. Right. Right. This is my component, and I have no other CSS on this thing. Right. The answer, why do buttons appear side by side? Water, man, I watch both the channels. I think you can watch without sound. Dot square left, check square. Do you mean? Yes, you already watch both the channels. That is good. Dot square, right? Square and float is left. First of all, I do not know what float property does. And second, we are not putting this class, we are not giving this class to any of these elements, so that class should not apply to anything, right? The name of the function here, component here is square, but we are not importing that class here. We are not applying that class to any of the elements, so this should not have any effect. Even if I delete this, and should that does have some effect. Dot square. dot border row, but I'm not in dot square. Yes, dot square is what is doing something. So in my CSS file, I have this thing. I completely forgot, do not remember anything about CSS. And this thing, I have this, and I am importing the whole file. And how am I importing the whole file? Like, I am importing it like this. Import this. Yes, the whole file makes sense. And then this CSS above describes a class called square. Right. This above describes a class called square, but in my compo, and I am not applying it to anything. So how is it being applied to my to the individual buttons? Wait, am I? My bad, my actual fucking bad. My bad. It says square 9 times. Shit, my bad, my bad. Shit. What did ChatGPT say? Yes, let's look back at your code. You are applying the class. Yes, it says I am applying the class. My bad. My actual bad. Shit. I am applying the class. So, hi. Le Abdul. Hi. Le Abdul, and we have a thing in France right now, and I guess it will be day after tomorrow. It is not Le Abdul, it is La La Mans race, in which people come and they bring their cars and they compete and see who is the fastest. And yeah, let's look back at your component code. Yeah, I am applying a square to the button. Now I have given background. Yes, I know what background does. I know what border does. Border will be 1 pixel long and one pixel thick, solid, and I think this is transparency. If I remove that, yeah, that is transparency. If I make this, let's say 9, yeah, I guess that is transparency. And then float left, that is one thing that I have to see what that means. And then font size is just font size. Font weight is bold. Line height is line height, makes sense. Height is height. Height of the component. And margin right, that is the margin on the right thing will be -1, because I think we have a 1 pixel border, therefore I want the right margin to be to you know to overlap, and I do not want two margins to be there. I only want one. And top, the same thing there, and padding is 0, and text align center width is this, right? Float is the thing that I do not understand from this thing. Wait, what does float? Wait, I do not have to ask ChatGPT. What does float property do in CSS? Float property places an element on the left or right of its container, allowing text and inline elements to wrap around. What does wrapping around mean? Let me ask ChatGPT. What does float property in CSS does, and what does float property in CSS does, and how is it different from a line, right? Text align and this text align from how is it different from text align, and does what does wrapping around mean? Good, now you are digging into the mechanics and shit. The float property in CSS removes an element from normal document flow and aligns it. Okay, isn't that same as display? Not display, but things like display flex, and there were other things. Display block fixed and things like that. Uh, Property in CSS removes an element from normal document flow, aligns it to the left or right within its parent. Okay, other elements, especially inline content, will wrap around it, like text. Like text follows around images in a newspaper. Okay, okay. That I think makes sense. Like in this float left, the image moves to the left. The text A in the paragraph follows around the image. The image behaves like it is no longer a block element. It won't push things below it. Okay, if there is some space to the right of the image, then text will go up there. Push this box to the side, left or right, and let the rest of the content fill in around it. Okay, it was that is what it means by wrapping around. That is, if there is some space around the element on its side, then first of all the element becomes inline, more like inline out of the flow. And if there is some space to the left or right of the element, then other elements, if they are small enough, they will fill that space. Not layout. Text wrapping, not layout. But developers started using it for layout in the early web pre-Flexbox days, hence the mess and need for clear fixes. What does wrapping around mean? Like in this, the text doesn't appear below the div, instead it appears beside it, following around the red box, because the red box is floated and the paragraph is still in normal flow. That behavior is wrapping around. Okay, float and text align. It removes element from flow and aligns it, and text align aligns inline content inside a block. Removes element from flow and aligns it. Okay, this also aligns them, but the extra step that float is doing is removes element from flow, elements, dev image, and all those things. And parent align applies to parent box elements. Drastic impact, no flow change, just positioning. Hmm, how? Text line right, this whole button goes to the right, button moves to the right, but it is still part of the normal flow. It doesn't escape or float. What the fuck does float mean? No other element will wrap around it. Okay, is wrapping around the only difference between floating and non-floating elements? That button floats to the right, it is now taken out of the flow. Any inline content can wrap around it. Okay, so does the only difference between float and non-float is that the text that other elements wrap around, elements can wrap around when it is float. Let's see. And also here, what are you trying to do here? I mean, with concept, which concept you are learning? We are learning Well, I am learning CSS, React.js. I think float equals flex. Yes, ChatGPT said that this is how we used to do things before Flexbox came around. So that must mean something. And there is no proper documentation, I think, which you can just go and read, like a sort of narrative from the start till the present moment, which explains how things were and what they were designed for, and how changes came, what problems were faced later on, and what solutions were brought out for those problems, and all those things. Right. Core difference: float takes an element out of the normal flow and makes out of the normal flow. Just use that phrase as it would mean something to anyone, and makes it hug one side, left or right, allowing other elements to float around, but only if those elements are in line, or those elements are inline block, are inline or inline block. What other part could they be? Non-floated elements, that is regular block elements, stay in the normal flow. What is normal flow? So okay, what is normal flow? Great question. Let's get to the bedrock of CSS layout. With what exactly is normal flow? Definition: no fluff. Normal flow is the default way the browser lays out HTML elements without any special positioning, like float, position. Yes, position is the thing. Position is one thing that I've heard and used before, and I do not remember. Now, float, position, flex, and grid. Okay, normal flow is default way that the browser renders things without something like float, position, absolute, flex, and grid. Everything just gets stacked or placed based on its display type. Block elements top to bottom, and inline left to right, wrapping as needed. Okay, text of it. Think of it as let the elements do their natural thing. Okay, if they are in flow, then they do their natural thing, and not, then they don't. Now continue the tic-tac-toe. Enough research. Makes sense. Now tic-tac-toe CSS. Now after this, I have this. Let me also change that. And tic-tac-toe. Replace by 6. No, replace that thing by 6. Replace this thing by 7, this by 8, this by 9. And research is also pretty important. But that is cool. But you now have a problem. Your uh, component named square really isn't quite a square anymore. Let's fix that by changing the name to board. Or, yeah, okay. At this point, your code should look something like this. That is cool. Note that is a lot of type. It's okay to copy and paste code from this page. However, if you are up for a little challenge, we recommend only copy and pasting that you have manually typed at least once yourself. And what they are telling me is make this called a box, and then I would have to change things from here. Import app from app. Yes, because since since this is being exported by default, then does not matter what I call this thing. It will be the thing that is imported here, right? Passing data through props. Next, you will want to change the value of a square from empty to x when the user clicks on the square. From empty to x. Yes, when the user clicks on the square. With how you have built the board so far, you would need to copy paste the code that updates the square 9 times, one for each square you have No. Instead of copying pasting, React's component architecture allows you to create a reusable component to avoid messy duplicated code. First, you are going to copy the line defining your first element, button class name. You are going to copy this line, okay, from your board component into a new component called square, okay, in the same file. Then you will update the board component to render squares, okay. Now, note, unlike the browser divs, your own component board square must start with a capital letter. Yes. Oh no, you have lost the numbered. Okay, they will take in a value and then I will render that value. Okay. And above here I will have function square. Right. I will name it whatever I want. And I will name this whatever I want. This will be called board or my board, and this will be called function small box, and this will take in a value which will be printed in there, and this will return a button which will have value inside, and this has class name square. Small box is declared but never used. It is going to be used here. As a small box. Yep. Not like this. Like this. Paste, paste, and paste, paste, paste. Copy, paste. And this should, yes, it is empty right now. That makes sense. And here I would have to give value. Value equals, shit, is that how I want to give them values? No, I can do something smarter. I'm not looking at the tutorial right now. Let me do something smarter. Let me have an array which has elements from 1 to 9, and so for int I equals 1. Wait, how can I populate array with continuous numbers without running a loop? Let me run a loop first and then I can see how I can do this in a faster, proper way, more professional way. R dot push what I, and make this less than equal to, not int but right, makes sense, let I. And then in here this air dot map, and let's call it any, and this will have any. No, I don't think array is a good thing. I think I should make it a matrix. 3 by 3 matrix would be much better. And that I would have to statically begin 1 comma 2 comma 3, and then and then 4 comma 5 comma 6, and then 7 comma 8 comma 9, and then here I will have a row, and I will return a div, and in each div I will have row dot map and le for an element, and it will return a small box where the value is going to be equal to le itself, and I can just do this. Yeah, I think that is going to work. That might actually work. Let's see. That does not work. Yes, that does not work because of this. I have to make this class name equals, what was the name of that class? Board row. Board row, and now it does work. Let's go. It is working, and now on to the next step. I have a value that I am taking from above, and then yep, square, and value is value, so that is cool. Oops, this is not what you wanted. You wanted to render JavaScript variable called value from your component, not the word value. Yeah, because you went stupid. You have to provide curly braces here like that, and now it is empty because there is nothing that you are passing. Yep, now you are passing numbers. Now you should see something like this. Makes sense. And now this is the code that I have. I would argue my code is a bit better than this. See, this is 25 lines long. Mine is 5 lines long. Oh, not 5, but mine is 15 lines long. Yep, now making an interactive component. Let's fill the square component with an X. When you click it, declare a function called handle click instead of the square, then add on click on the props of the button JSX element returned from the class. Handle click and on click the function. Okay, with value handle click and put on click equal to handle click, but here I'm not passing any handle click. Let me define a handle click, and even before that, instead of this, I don't have to do this. I will do const state set state equal to use state, and initially the state is, I would say 0 0 0 0 0 0 and 0 0 0. 0 means that this current thing has not been played, and instead of doing air map, I'll do state map, and 0 means, like, let me put it down. 0 means not played yet, and 1 means X, and -1 means Y. No, means O. -1 means O. Right. I have this, cannot find that. You should be able to find it. Import use production development. I have two different use states. Production and development. That is cool. Now my handle click function. Handle click. Yep. Cons handle click. This doesn't take in anything. What it does is this function has to know which box has been clicked. And how would this function know which box has been clicked? By passing it on. Yes, by it will take that as input, right? Let's say X, and 0 would mean the first in the first, and then 1 would mean the first in the second. Now I think there would could be a better way. Let's say x comma y, an array, right? And yeah, I can do this here. Or yeah, the first thing which I said, x. This would work. And when I'm calling on click here, I have to define a wrapper function. Const wrapper, which doesn't do anything. It just internally calls handle click with shit. I don't even know this. Yes. So the wrapper function has to be defined in my board because the small box doesn't know where it is. Right. The small box doesn't know. So the wrapper function has to be defined in here where handle click is also defined. And yes, that makes sense. Does that make sense? Yes, that does make sense. Now I have x. I have to convert it into two numbers. First would be the remainder, and second would be the dividend, floor division. So set state. I have to set state. Yes. How do I set state? I have to change a matrix, a very specific thing inside a matrix. So set state. I have to give it. Oh yes, I have, and I have to remember that since this is a matrix, I have to first have a copy of it and make the change on that copy and pass that copy on to set state, because if I were to change state itself and pass it on to set state, then there would be a problem because set state would compare our new state with its own state element, which is itself changed, and so there it would not find any difference, and nothing would re-render. And can you show syllabus slide? This is not a course. Although how do you do that? What am I doing? I'm just doing this, and there is no syllabus. This is just this. I'm reading this tic-tac-toe thing and trying to do that. Paste tic-tac-toe. Now here. Hmm. Handle click. I have X, so let's say let Y, and this will call. Let's call it uh, count. Makes more sense, I guess. X comma Y and X equals count floor division by 3. There is no floor division here. Divide by 3 and make it into an int. Shit, this is so ineffective code that I'm writing right now. And Y equals count remainder with 3. And yes, I have X and I have Y. Now I need to create a copy of state, and it has to be a deep copy of state. Shit. Yes, it has to be. Does it has to be a deep copy of state? Yes, it has to be a deep copy of state. How do I create a deep copy of state? I'm being very ineffective. I should stick to this thing. Let's fill the square component with x's, right? And declare a function called handle click inside the square, then add on click to props of button j6 element returned from the square, not then add on click to the props of the button j6 element returned from the square. Yes, on click to the button, and handle click is defined inside square. That is cool, I guess. If you click on a square now, you should see this. Yes, I will see if I do. Let me do it instead of just talking about it. And here I'm passing on element, and here let me make this a little more beautiful, like this. This is a little bit more elegant. And here handle click is defined by me and not console.log. Alert button clicked, and I can remove handle click from here. Let's see. Production is not exported from Tic-Tac-Toe modules React C field. Shit, it is not exported. You state this. What I'm getting is I'm getting this thing from my LSP, and I am running this using bun. Bun should be able to get these things because it is what it is, what my LSP is using. Alright, yes, module not found, package path dot cjs react production is not exported from this folder. Then how is my LSP able to find it? Cannot find import use state. I have to use states due to some reason. And how is use state imported in here whenever it is used later? Use state. How do they say import use state from React? It is giving me error. But is it giving me error? No, it is not giving me error here. Button clicked. Okay, that is cool. Could not find a declaration file for module React. Why? Is my LSP bit retard? LSP info, it is running TSLS, which is the one that should be running, and command is this. Yes, so it is running. And okay, if I think I might know the problem, if this is the problem, I don't know. And now if I open it, it is still there. It is still there. So why is this happening? How do I set up the root? Is a question. Yep. Let me ask ChatGPT for a few things. Yeah. Yep. I am using TSLS for my LSP in my React project, which has a source folder in the root of the project. How do I tell my LSP that where the root of the project is so that it can have access to the package.json file and also see the node modules that I have downloaded. Let's see. I have all of these things, and if I were to start my new in here, LSP info, does it say what is the root folder? File watcher position settings root directory. It knows where the root directory is, so how is it messing up? These config node modules. Let's break it down. It knows where the root folder is, so to create production build. Nope, I do not want to create a production build yet. It knows where the root folder is. Then why is it giving me this error? TypeScript TS server use the presence of package.json ts.config to determine where the root is. Yes. Now the problem is that uh, on checking it, I see that TS knows what my root folder is, but it says that it can't find React module, even though I am able to run it in development environment. I see. This typically happens due to this. Um, if not, run this npm install react bun install. It is fine in that case, I think. ls ls node modules react is there, right? So what is the problem? Okay, it is getting access to this thing. Let's say node module react index.js. Okay, and it is exporting these two things. Why is react behaving in such a way? Index.js in node modules slash react slash index.js. This is what I found, and therefore on doing import use state from react, I am getting error since use state is not being exported from the index.js. Let's see. Excellent detective work. You are seeing that this uses this pattern. This is common JS code using shit. Common JS is not, we are using TypeScript correctly. The correct way to import is this, not this. That is how I am importing. Yep, this is how I am importing. Could not find a declaration file module for React. Inside, I cannot see the full message, full error message. Index.js implicitly. Okay, I guess that does make sense. It says bun install at types. Bun install at types slash react. I guess now it doesn't give any error. We are good to go. Now that's cool. Okay, then I gotta go. Good luck with this tic-tac-toe. Yes, thank you. Yep, of course you have your work. And all the best for whatever you have to do now with tic-tac-toe. Value stores the value. Yes, that was after I was about here. Yes, yes, we did that, and now making interactive components. Yes, we did that. And note, okay. If you click on any square, it should say clicked in the console tab at the bottom of the browser and sandbox, but I'm doing alert instead of that. If you are following this tutorial using a local development, you need to open your browser's console, for example. Okay, as a next step, you want the square component to remember that it got clicked and fill it with an X mark to remember things. components use state, right? React provides a special function called state. Use state that you can call from components to let it remember things. Let's store the current value of the square in state and change it when square is clicked, right? But who will have that state? I want to have that state in the app section, in this my board section, and I will pass that down onto small box. Yes, for now they are putting the state in square, and they have removed this and set value to x null on click, and yes, and that is handle click. Okay, okay, I can do that much on handle click const click set click equal to use state null, and in here set click equal to capital X, and in here do click instead of that, whatever it was. Start select. Wait, delete around this shit. That is a very cool Vim shortcut. I pressed D A and curly braces, and that deleted the whole thing. That is cool. I can remove this handle click. Delete 5 down, one more down, delete, and that should result in something good. But I clicked, did I not save it? I did save it. And okay, because I stopped the server, makes sense. One run start, is that is the thing? Yeah, nope, yes. Wait, I do not have anything here due to some reason. Mhm. Yes, because I'm doing this thing here. Right, makes sense. Instead of this, I have to change this to return div, right? And each div will have class name, border, not border. Shit. Add this to harpoon and add this to harpoon. Border row, right? Border row, and in here I will have square, right? Paste paste, and this go down copy, go down paste paste. Wait, go down paste. Now I should have had it. Yes, I don't have anything called square. What I have is something called small box. Small box. Copy paste paste. Paste paste. Copy paste. And shit. Border row, BORDER. BOARD. 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 Shit. Board. Not border. Board row. Board row. And 5. Paste. Copy. 5 down. Board row. And click. 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 Yep. Makes sense. And now moving on. And React developer tools lets you click the props and the state of your React component. You can find the React dev tools tab at the bottom of the browser section and code section. I do not need to inspect. I do not want to inspect. a particular component on the screen, use the button on the top left. In the top left, okay, for local environment, go to the extension. Wait, React DevTools is available as Chrome, Firefox, Edge browser extension. Install it and component tab will appear. Shit, okay. React DevTools is an extension. React DevTools is extension. Let's go. Okay, I already have it. And if I go to inspect, let me increase the size. Inspect, and I should have something called components, which I do have. And loading React element tree, it seems stuck. Please follow troubleshooting instructions. Shit, it is stuck due to some reason. Completing the game now. By this point, you have all the basic building blocks for your tic-tac-toe game. To have a complete game, you now need to alternate x zeros on the board, and you need a way to determine a winner. Yes, lifting state up. Currently, each square component maintains a part of the game's state. To check for a winner in tic-tac-toe board, the board would need to somehow know the state of each of the 9 square. Yes, how would you approach that? At first, you might. Yes. Okay, that is how you do it. That is how you do it. Makes sense. And then I will fill the array like this, and then like, yeah, I can just give it like this instead of making it a loop, and pass on that value to the square function and empty tic-tac-toe. And I also need a way to change handle click, right? Like right now nothing happens, right? I need to do a handle click. On square click, it will be passed on to the function, and on square click will be called here, and this handle click, and handle click would need to know which square has been clicked. Handle click const next square, what it does is dot slice. Yes, square dot slice makes a copy of that thing and makes next squares 0 equal to this. Why only 0? I would have to know which. Yep, handle click needs an input like I and make that equal to x, or whatever the next thing is. Therefore, I would also need another use state to keep track of what it is. Right, you didn't pass a wrapper function there. Right, yep, like this wrapper function. And after this, everything would become x, right? Everything would become x, and I need to now alternate. Now let's recap what happened. Okay, that much I know, and I can do const, let's call it state set um stuff, set stuff. I can name it whatever I want. Set state, initially it is an array dot fill. How do you do that? New array, my bad. New array dot fill it with null, right? And I need to have a function const handle click. It will take an I, and what it will do is let changed array equals let, not array but changed stuff equals stuff dot slice the whole thing. And what is the definition of slice? It returns a copy of section of an array. Start can be anything and number can be anything, and by default they are, it copies the whole thing. Okay, changed stuff bracket I equals to, yes, what does it equal to, x or what, right? So let's say initially const chance set chance equals to state initially it is x's chance, so make it equal to chance to whosoever chance it is, and then set stuff to change stuff, and chance equals chance equal, if it is equal to x, then it will become equal to 0, I mean capital O, otherwise it will remain x, right? And then set chance with chance, right? Is that cool? Yes, that is cool. And is that actually cool? Yes, that is actually cool. And I can pass in, let's just call it value. Value would be equal to, for this thing, it would be equal to stuff bracket 0, and on click equal to an empty function which will call handle click with 0. Right, paste, delete these two, find 0, replace with 1, replace with 2, and replace with 1, replace with 2, copy this, paste here, copy again, and paste here, find 0, replace with 3, replace 4, replace 5, and replace 6, replace by 7, replace by 8. And what is go there, replace by 3, replace by 4, replace by 5, replace by 6, replace by 7, replace by 8. That should work. And now for the final changes in here, it is taking in a few things. It is first of all taking in something called a value, and then handle click, right? And I don't need to remember this. Nope, nothing like this. And in here, on click, handle click, and shit, on click. I have to change this from on click to on click on play. Let's call it. I cannot make this on click because on click is a preserved name. Wait, wait. How can I select this whole word? V inside W. V inside VIWP. VIWY. And VIWP. VIWY. VIWP. And VIWY. VIWP. And VIWY. VIWP. VIWY. VIWP. VIWY. VIWP. Sure, I could have used a macro there, but this is fine. Yep, moving on. What do we have now? Is this thing working now? Nope. If I click, I have value here, and let's see error. Okay, I got error. Node 14 because no match node was found in the store. What? Okay, that is error by that. Okay, nothing is happening. That is uncool. On play, this shit makes so much sense. I have to change this handle click from here to on play, and then pass in here on play, and handle click on play. What caused the error? On play, this thing, hot update. Shit, what is causing the error? I'm doing on click, on play, and when I press on play, yes, shit. Handle click is being invoked, and what is the error? After handle handle click gets something, and I make it equal to chance, whatever chance is, right? And then I do this chance equals to x, then make it equal to O, and otherwise make it equal to x, and then set chance. Or maybe instead of making it something like this, I can make it, let's say, 0, and if chance question mark, if it is 0, then x, otherwise y. All right, and set chance to not chance. Set stuff, yeah. Set chance to not chance. That is cool. Initially, we'll make it true, and then it will fluctuate between true and false. This should work. Why is it becoming y? Because that is what I chose. My bad. Now it should say, yep, x0, x0. That is cool. And now the DOM button elements on click attribute has a special meaning to React because it is inbuilt component. For custom components like square, the name is up to you. You could give any name to the squares on click prop or squares handle click function, and the code would work the same. In React, it is conventional to use on something names for props which represent events, and handle something for function definitions which handle those events. Okay, and it has been 1 hour 17 minutes and 44 frames have dropped, which is not bad enough. It's cool, but let's see. Concurrent viewers are 2 at this point. That is fine. Why immutability is important. Note how in handle click you call dot slice to create a copy of a square of squares instead of modifying the existing array. To explain why, we need to discuss immutability and why immutability is important to learn. Okay, there are generally two approaches to changing data. First approach is to mutate the data by directly changing the data's value. The second approach is to replace the data with a new copy which has the desired changes. Here is what it would look like if you mutated the squares array. Right, directly changing squares itself, but it is constant, so this would give error because this is constant. You wait, squares is constant, but the elements inside squares are not, I think. And here is what it would look like if we changed data without mutating squares array next to square. Yes, the result is the same, but by not mutating, changing the underlying data directly, you gain several benefits. Immutability makes complex features much easier to implement. Later in this tutorial, you will implement a time travel feature that lets you review the game's history, jump back to past moves. This functionality isn't specific to games, and ability to undo and redo certain actions is a common requirement for apps. Avoiding direct data mutation lets you keep previous versions of the data intact and reuse them later. That makes sense, so that I have what I originally had, and I have another object which represents the changed new object, and I also have a history which I can use for other things. And maybe if other things, other functions or components in my website are depending on this older thing. By not changing that older original thing, I am not breaking them. I am making my own copy and working with it. There are also another benefits of immutability. By default, all child components re-render automatically when the state of a parent component changes. Okay, this includes even the child components that weren't affected by the change. Although re-rendering is not by itself noticeable to users, you shouldn't actively try to avoid it. Shouldn't actively try to avoid it. You might want to skip re-rendering a part of the tree that clearly wasn't affected by its performance reasons. For performance reasons, immutability makes it very cheap for components to compare whether their data has changed or not. Yes, yes. You can learn more about how React chooses to re-render a component in the memo API reference, which I will read when we go there. Taking turns. Yes, that is something that I have already implemented. Taking turns part. Now I can do this, which I can do here on my own too. You know, like this. This works. This works. This works. Right. And yeah, I have not logged. Declaring a winner. Taking turns. Before changing in this handle click, I have to see if it is already not null. Chance. What are the chances? If not changed stuff, bracket I, only then do this thing. So now if I were to go there, I should not be able to change them. Yep, I'm not able to change them again. That makes sense. Yep. Declaring a winner. I have to figure out a way to know which person has one. Declaring a winner. Yep. Now that the players can take turns, you will want to show when the game is won and there are no more turns to make. To do this, you will add a helper function called calculate winner that takes an array of 9 squares, checks for a winner and returns x0 or null as appropriate. Don't worry too much about the calculate winner function. It is not specific to React. Okay, calculate winner, I am going to make it on my own. This function is supposed to take um, const const is over is going to be the name that I'm giving to this function. It takes in an array, let's call it air, and but we are not calling it air, we are calling it stuff. And I have to figure out if someone has one or not one, right? And when has someone one, either they have matching rows, matching columns, or two diagonals. Const position, that is the winning positions, would be 0 1 0 1 2 for the rows. 0 1 2, that is the first row, then second, and then third would be 3 4 5, and then 6 7 8, right? And then we write something for the columns. The first is 1 2 3, 1 0 1 2 3 4 5 6, right? And then 1 4 7, and then 2 5 8, right? And now the diagonals. For the diagonals, we have 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, the last one. and the other diagonal would be 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 5 0 1 2 3 4 5 6, right. And for let x of pause, I guess this is something that I can do. Yes, let x is x, fine. Yes, x is fine. And what I have to do is stuff x if stuff x 0 equal to stuff x 1 equal to stuff x 2, right? If that, and they are not equal to null, that is very important. And stuff x 0 not equal to null, or like, and stuff x does exist, then return stuff x 0 whatever it is. Otherwise, if that is not the case and you have gone through all of the positions, then what you have to do is, wait, I guess I can break it here. Let a comma b comma c equal to x. All right. A a b c a, and in here a. And after checking that for every possible place, then I can return null, since I know that no one has 1. So, and when will I do this? I will do this. Set chance after this is over. Call is over with change stuff if is over. If is over, then alert. Wait, yes, I have to also keep it somewhere. Uh, Winner equal to is over changed stuff. Yeah, and if winner, then alert that winner is plus winner. I think that should work. I don't know. Refresh and let's see. 1 x, bruh. Uh, it didn't work. Alert. I didn't see any alert. Refresh. Let me make this bigger. X, X. I am not seeing any error. Return stuff A console.log alert winner. Alert was every time. Let's see. Null. All right. Null. All right. Null. All right. Still null. Yes, in this case it should be. Let's make this here x 0 here, and it says null even in this case. Why? Wow. Water finished. And yes, there was something. Yeah. Uh, winner is over is not working correctly. Changed stuff. Why is it not working correctly? Pause. I have paused. Right. Let me do console.log a.b.c a comma b comma c. And right, how do you open inspect from like I don't know from 0 and 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 is 0 3. Yes, that is absolutely fine, and they are all equal. And this thing, let's change this and move it back instead of a and this, right? uh, it says null, which I can remove from here, this alert, right? Hmm. So let me console dot log stuff a comma stuff b comma stuff c. Let's see now. Undefined, undefined, undefined. The thing that I'm passing in is changed stuff, which is cool. Undefined, undefined, undefined. X comes here. Yes, I have two X's. This two zeros and this shit. This should have worked. If this thing equal to this thing and stuff B equal to this. I think this might be the problem. This goes there, this goes there. Bruh. It does work. Yes, it does work. Now, so the problem was that after doing stuff A equal to stuff equal to stuff B, the thing was being converted from X to true, and then I was comparing true with stuff C, which does not make sense. VRW, which does not make sense. And now, so it is working, and now I need to have another state variable finished, set finished, so that I know the game is finished. Initially, it is false. Now, if not finished, only then do all of these things, right? And if we have a winner, then finished, right? Set finished true. Now it should work, and after having a winner, X is the winner, and we cannot play anymore. That is a very crappy to-do app, Tic-Tac-Toe, but I guess that is what we will leave at for today, because there is something that I have to do right after declaring winner, and I want to change something. I want to make this alert appear later, after like after a bit. I want the move to be there first and then the alert to be there. So let me put this away from here, and if I do this, then I think I'm pretty good. or maybe not. Changed stuff. Yes, makes sense. What the heck is changed stuff? It is nothing. I have stuff. What I have is stuff. Yes. Uh, Changed stuff. Refresh. Undefined. Undefined. Yeah. Remove that. What was being printed before? Yep. Yes. This, and winner is X is not going away. My bad. I should put it back there. Mhm. Yep, that is good. That is good enough, I guess. Okay, localhost 3000. This, and then oh, that was pretty late actually. This. Why is it checking on the next time? If not finished, yes, this has to be inside and it makes sense. Yep, and this refresh, motherfucker. Save. Set chance, not chance, and set stuff to that thing, and then check for is over, right? And set finished equal equal to true, right? This should work this time, which it didn't. Shit. Let me go to there and see. 1 minute ago, it looked like this. And this. Okay, I had it before outside here. Okay, things were like this, and yeah, at this point they were pretty cool. Okay, I think it will work now. This, go there. It has worked. So yeah, we are cool. We are cool. What was the mistake? Nothing. The tree is gone. That is cool. We have built this very crappy tic-tac-toe. I guess winner is X, and yo, does it know about the diagonals? Yo, winner is X. That is cool. And that would be the end of the stream. If there is something that you would like to ask, if you want, then now is the time, and I will wait for about 5 to 10 seconds due to the delay in YouTube streaming services, and then I will end the stream. That would be it for today. And yeah, there are a few other things in here which I guess I will do on my own when I'm at night, when I'm sitting now, or shit, I have my college stuff to do today. So yeah, I won't be able to do this today. And this is the bare minimum to tic-tac-toe that we have built here. And now I guess I will be ending the stream. That is the end of today's stream.